Okay. Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh, who taught today? Am I the only one who taught today? Huh, what a day. I'm in Miami, Florida. That's why it's a balmy 70. And we're back in hybrid. And, if I have to, I don't have a power cord. My computer doesn't work. I'm in the car. I'm on my way to get COVID tested. I tell people if they haven't taught in the last 2.5, 3 years, they don't know what teaching is like right now. Anyway, so this is my second job. My name is Bertha, and I'm the director of the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. And I plan to retire from teaching in 1.5 years. I've been teaching 32 years. And I'm a little worried because I think the minute I walk out of the classroom, I lose some credibility, to be honest with you. Although, I could say I taught 32 years, but it's insane what's going on right now. It's just, I don't know. So before I begin though, Margaret, how much time do you want me to go for?
We have slated for an hour.
Okay.
And then I want to give people about a half-hour break because it's around dinner time. And so, know that there are going to be people who are going to watch this recording separately. Hybrid learning. It is what it is.
It is what it is. So about 5:20-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm going to leave time at the end for you to look through the resources, because one of the things that I've heard as, feedback is give people time to look through the resources. But I do want to tell you about a couple. I have some giveaways, so we'll talk about that in a sec. So I want to share. Oh, you disabled participant screen sharing. She'll get it. It's okay. I got a new Promethean. I've had no Promethean all year. I've been with a marker and whiteboard all year. And I just got a Promethean, but the slides in the Promethean do not advance. So I connect to my computer, but then the sound doesn't work. So I'm going back and forth. I'm putting off dementia by years. In the last 3 years, I think I'm like way putting off dementia, because all we do all day is problem solve. That's all we do all day. It's amazing. So what is Tys and what are we doing here? So Tys is the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. As you know, I am a classroom teacher. I am actually a middle school science teacher in Miami-Dade. Been at it for 30-something years. And back in 2015, I was asked by a very well-known scientist, actually, if you could just scoot down right here, you'll see it's Richard Dawkins is on this book. He asked me to start a teacher institute to help, at the time, it was middle school science teachers teach evolution. Evolution can be a difficult subject to teach, especially in certain areas of our country. I assume Vermont isn't so bad. Miami-Dade isn't so bad either. I'm in a large urban area, and I teach at a school that I'd say 90% of the kids are from their parents or their grandparents are from other countries, mainly Hispanic countries. We have a very college educated population. So most of the kids are like me, first generation or second generation American. So the whole evolution controversy doesn't really hit my school. They don't know what's going on. But I do know, because I've been all over the country now, that it can be a difficult subject to teach. And as teachers, the most important thing is to have kids feel comfortable in our classes and to develop that connection between kids. I think that's when real learning happens. So I put together this Teacher Institute. It started just me in 2015. And as you can see from this map, we've done, including Hawaii there and Alaska, we've done over 300 workshops in all 50 US states. I am not the only presenter, because I'm still in the classroom. So one of the things I'd like you to have in the back of your mind is that we just started an elementary school project, and we have elementary school stuff put together by some of the people you see here in this, all of these ladies. There's like 300 years of elementary school experience in that photo there. And we need elementary school presenters. So keep that in the back of your mind, because we do offer $250 for every presentation that you do. And last November, I was able to get a $15,000 donation just to focus on elementary school. So this is the front of our website. It's called tyseducation.org, tyseducation.org. The first page will just show you, some informational stuff. I'd like to stop here a second because I do want to give away one of our books. This book was just released. This is the first workshop I do with this book being released. And what's really cool about it, this is the book link. The chapters all have amazing resources. So these are the chapters. This is my chapter. And in the book, when you get the hard copy, you will see that there are QR codes. And if you get the ebook, you will see that there are links, and everything on here is free. Everything we offer is free. Okay. So let's say every teacher in here, there's 13 different teachers, say, this is my favorite lesson. This is my favorite video. This is my favorite book. This is my favorite bell ringer. And every chapter is organized the same way. So what you're getting is just a ton of new resources, and you go, hey, I really like chapter 4. I like the way she introduces evolution in her classroom. And you just QR code that, or you come here and there's your bell ringer or Tys Evolution Rotation Lab. And these things will take you to directly to the resources mentioned in the book. So one of the things I'd like to give away today is one of these books. Okay, so this is where the big money is. As you scroll down from the top of the webpage, this is where it says see all resources. I'm going to scoop back up, but first I want to show you that this is our map, and this is where we're going. This is where we're headed. So South Dakota is next on February 5th. No, I'm not going to South Dakota in February. We have somebody in South Dakota. And to be honest, I think it's very, very important that, virtual, I've been doing most of them, but I feel more comfortable if a Vermont teacher presents to Vermont teachers, and a teacher from South Dakota, a South Dakotan teacher, presents to South Dakotan, I'm not sure if that's correct, teachers. So that is why I would love for some of you to be interested in presenting for us. You know what's going on in your state and your school district better than I do. Now, we have been offering webinars where scientists, book authors go live, people invited their students, but I just feel lately like we're kind of zoomed out a little bit, and our attendance was really going down. So as you can see, we haven't done one in a while, but everything is recorded. So if you click on see all webinars, you can see all the past webinars that we've done. And I love the whole chestnut tree thing and how they're using evolution, natural selection to try to bring back the great American chestnut tree. So that was one of my favorites. So you can click on here and go through. Most of them are not really good for elementary school kids, but there's definitely a lot for you to learn in here. Now I will go back to that main page and scroll up, like I said, to resources. So this is really the best part, I think, of our institute. We love doing workshops, and I love the in-person workshops. I haven't done an in-person workshop since Mississippi last July. And but this is accessible to all, not just people doing the workshops, and it's all free. And again, that's very, very important to me. Where are these resources coming from? I created some. But most of them, as I scroll down, you'll see what I've done is basically created a one-stop shop to evolution education. Everywhere I go online, if I think this is a really good resource, I put it all here. You could call it the Walmart of evolution education if you want. Now you can see right here, it says skip to elementary resources near the top. And that is what we're going to do in a second. But it is organized by topic, for example, natural selection videos, evidence for evolution, like fossils and biogeography and law of superposition. And the reason I'm showing you this is because while the elementary school resources focus on your standards and what you need to hit, I think it's really important to realize there's a lot of other stuff on here. And I do want to give time at the end for you to go through that, including Spanish speaking stuff. Now, what Margaret told me was you guys are kind of going back to that hybrid model as well. So you needed a virtual unit. So when I created the middle school and high school virtual units, when this craziness first began in March 2020, the units were downloaded 2,000 times in less than 3 weeks. So there was definitely a need for it. And now I've created the virtual ones as well. So let me show you what we have here for elementary, like exclusively for elementary, although I think some of the stuff above also applies to you guys. The first thing is I created a teacher guide for elementary school teachers. If you're here, teachers who voluntarily come to a workshop, you guys are the superstars. You know that. You're the superstars. But there might be a lot of teachers in your school and so forth that may not understand the science behind evolution. So if you click here, it'll take you to our teacher guide. And again, you could download everything. Everything's free. No money being made here. We run completely on donors. And I created this teacher guide to kind of help elementary school teachers get a brief understanding of evolution. So what is evolution? What does it explain? What's the evidence behind it? For example, one of the most common misconceptions is the word theory. The word theory in science doesn't mean what it means in the regular world. I love watching Law and Order and detective shows, for example, and they saying, I have a theory that the thief came in through the door and out through the window, or probably in through the window and out through the door. And we can use the word theory like that in everyday language, and it's perfectly acceptable. But if I stick the word scientific in front of the word theory, a scientific theory, it means something quite different. It means a broad explanation for something that happens in nature. Gravity is a theory, the theory of general relativity. I often tell kids who say, well, it's just a theory. I say, well, do you want your doctor to wash his or her hands before they operate on you? Because that's just a theory, the germ theory of disease. How about the sun, the center of the solar system? That's just a theory. It's the heliocentric theory. So evolution is a theory. Theories explain, laws describe. And one of the resources here under teacher materials is a wonderful video that explains that, which I can point out to you. Here it is: fact versus theory versus hypothesis versus law. And in the middle and high school presentations, I do include that in there. And those are free as well. Okay, here. And so if it's a theory and theories explain, what does evolution explain? Evolution explains two things. That's what makes it such an elegant theory. It's a theory that explains a whole heck of a lot in a very small amount of space. It explains two things: why we have such a vast diversity of life on Earth, 8.7 million species, and that all of these species descend from a common ancestor. Now, in what I've been seeing in terms of grades 3 through 5, your standards, that's not addressed so much as what's really addressed in standards for the middle childhood or grades, early childhood, is things like adaptation, things how living things change over time, and things like that. So for the elementary school materials, that is actually more what I focused on. However, if you go to the guide and if you scroll up, you can learn a lot more about the theory of evolution and some of the other parts. I'm going to go ahead. So this is the elementary unit. This is assuming you're in class with your kids and you can guide them through this. When you download this resource, you will see that in the notes section, it says, okay, now do this, now try this. It will guide you in the notes section. But the one I really want to focus on today is the virtual unit, because that's the one that Margaret was asking for. So I'm actually using the middle school virtual unit right now in my class and the high school virtual unit right now in my class, because I teach high school biology and middle school science. They're quite similar to this. And what it'll tell the kids is, see, I do it with them and I guide them through it and I stop, and there's cooperative learning and active learning and stuff like that. But if you have a child at home who's not zooming in with you, you can just say, here, do this. And they answer the questions in red. And this is a PDF, but if you email me, and I'll be sure to put my email in the chat, I can give you the Word version, because what I want you to do is put your name on the front. I don't care. We're not proprietary. We're not making money here. I want you to make this yours. And what I want you to do is say, you know, Bertha, this is okay, but I need this and I want to add that and I want to delete the other thing. And you make it yours. You absolutely make it yours. So that's one of the benefits of doing a workshop and not just going straight to the site without me, is that I can email you the Word version of this. So the child is at home and all the questions will be in red. So it's very similar to the one that you'd be doing in class, except they can do it on their own. And you can kind of sort of do it in class with them too, because that's what I'm doing right now. I have kids Zooming that are paying attention, and I have kids who are home with COVID and they're not coming to Zoom. And every day I just said, hey, we did slides. We did questions 1 through 8 today. And that way the ones that are home and not Zooming in can hopefully stay with you. So these are some of the questions that I'd like the kids to kind of think about, kind of introduce the topic to them. So what kind of characteristics would a polar bear have compared to a tiger? And what would happen if we switched these animals? If you come here, I should mention this, where it says complete this form. You fill out this information, because this is where all the answer keys are. And I want to make sure I'm only sending answer keys out to teachers. I promise you, I won't put you on any listserv or anything like that. I hate having to unsubscribe to 50,000 political emails asking me for money because I sent money to one candidate in Florida, and now I'm getting from all over the country. So you come to this and it says, oh, I would like the teacher guide. I'd like the rubric. I'd like the student response sheet where students can type their answers in. I'd like the lesson plans. And it's all here. And you hit request documents and you will get all of these documents along with the unit. And again, if you wanted to just email me, that's the other way to do it, because you know you're gonna have my email. It's that one. No, it's this one. This is my virtual unit. I lost it. Hold on. Go back to this page. I have too many things open. So one with the red writing. Yes. So the kids would answer these questions and think about adaptation, basically. Right? And then I want them to try to think about, what do these words mean? a lot of the kids, I think grades 3 through 5, and you tell me, and feel free to jump in, by the way. I know, Kathy, you're full of information. You know more than I do about that grade level, those grade levels. Some kids won't know these words at all. So I want them to kind of think about it. And then I want them to actually write down the definitions that scientists use for these words. So I give them the definitions: species, population, variation, and adaptation. And now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here. This is a little background content for them. And now it's time to practice what we've learned. The first thing I want them to do is group the photos, species, group the photos below by 6 different species. So A is a shark, K is a killer whale shark, a killer white, great white shark. A, K, and H are great white sharks, etc. Right? You have your giraffes, you have your kittens. They often, you know, a lot of kids have plant blindness. They don't realize that plants are living things. So I threw in a lily and I threw in a palm tree. Maybe if you did this, you can take out the palm tree and throw in a maple or something. So it's species is tough for them. The definition actually is 2 living things that can have an offspring, whose offspring can have an offspring. In my class, we get into things like mules and ligers. That means that donkeys and horses are separate species because they can have a baby, but the baby can't have a baby. Same with the liger. It's also important to realize something like a shark, there's a lot of different species of shark. So a whale shark cannot have babies with a killer great white shark or a mako and stuff like that. So 440 different species of sharks. Then I'd like them to think about that. Complete this sentence using one of your new vocabulary words. While these dogs are all members of the same species, they show that blank exists within the dog species. There's only 4 words to choose from. So we do hope they choose variation, which is a ridiculously important concept in biology and evolution. Without variation, you're not going to have natural selection and you won't have evolution happening. Adaptation is another word that is a little hard for some kids. They think an individual adapts. No, the species adapts. So if there's a cheetah that cannot catch a gazelle, it's not just going to get faster because it needs to get faster. It's not going to adapt. It's probably going to die because it's not going to be able to eat and it's not going to be able to pass on its genes. So the faster cheetahs are the ones that are going to survive. And as a result, the entire population gets faster. So I'd like them to kind of describe what they see in the photo. I see the cheetah, I see the gazelles, etc. And I want them to think about, like, which trait do you think will help a gazelle survive if the cheetah begins the chase? Which gazelles might be caught by the cheetah? And over time, what'll happen to the gazelle population? Well, they'll get faster. And you're looking at the 2 fastest land animals on Earth, the cheetah and the gazelle. Okay, so if you've answered number 12 by saying that the gazelles got faster over time, you're right. And this is called adaptation. And that might be enough for the kids to do without any extra resources. So then we go and I add now some videos, some games, and a few other things to kind of help drive home these concepts that they have to learn. I absolutely love this video. It covers in 2 minutes, 2.5, I think it's 2 minutes long, everything that helps explain how living things change over time. First of all, you're going to see a population and there's variability. Okay, there's red little rocks. They look like little rocks to me. Green little rocks, brown little rocks, etc. So there's variability in the population. Number 2, not all the little rocks, guys, survive and reproduce. Number 3, the ones who survive and reproduce have an advantageous trait, something that helped them survive and reproduce. And finally, whatever it was, they passed it on. It's a heritable trait that they passed on to their offspring. Now, I don't expect you to explain it like that to your kiddos, but that's in a nutshell, that's natural selection in a nutshell. Let me show you the video. Let me know. I hope my sound is going to work here. I know sometimes it doesn't.
This is Lithopodius nulla, a simple creature with a tendency, like any other species, to reproduce offspring. Lots of offspring. Although the offspring inherit many characteristics of their parents, no two individuals in the population are exactly the same. This variation is vital to the survival of the species, as only a fraction of the Lithopodius will actually survive long enough to reproduce themselves. As a result, only those with characteristics that are best suited for survival in the environment will pass on these successful traits to the next generation. Those with characteristics less suited to the environment are less likely to survive and reproduce. This process is called natural selection, and over time and generations, it leads to the build-up of favorable characteristics in the population of a species. The result is a transformation of a population over time to suit its environment. This is known as adaptation. Environmental pressures can also change. But as long as variation in a population exists, new adaptations can occur, ensuring the survival of the species.
Okay, that is 2 minutes long. I think the absolute best video on natural selection out there, because you're hitting a lot of points, and this is again more for you, that when you present it to your students, there's variability in that population. If they were all the same, there isn't going to be any natural selection. Over time, the ones that survive to reproduce are the ones that are, in this case, camouflaged, and the predator cannot see them. It is the species that adapts, not the individual. Some of these red guys and blue guys and green guys, they're not adapting, they're getting eaten, and they will not be passing their phenotype to the next generation. And there's something I love about this video, is that all of a sudden there's a random mutation and you got some green guys. At the beginning, that random mutation would have been a very bad thing. They would have not been camouflaged. It just so happened that the environment changed, and the color green actually became a beneficial mutation as opposed to a harmful mutation. The idea that mutations are random is another big idea. And when you teach evolution or natural selection adaptation to your young kids, you don't become green because you want to become green, because you need to become green. The beaver doesn't stand next to the tree and go, chainsaw, 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 and get a chainsaw. That's not going to happen. It's just a random mutation. And some are lucky and some are not lucky. And what we see when we look out the window is thousands of lucky mutations accumulated over time. Random accumulation, the accumulation of mutations over time, but the initial mutations were random. These are the questions. If you look at the unit that is not virtual, that you can do in class, you have the same thing, except the timestamps are there for you. And the kids answer these questions as they go through the little video. They could go back and forth and so forth. hopefully that gives them a decent understanding, but now I think it's time to play a little game. So this game, when I developed these units with the elementary school teachers, they absolutely loved this game. And the game about a year and a half ago disappeared from the internet, gone. I couldn't find it. I contacted the developers, nothing. So guess what? I got a young man at the University of Arizona to make the game for us. So we changed the name to Tys Time Machine. We changed all the words, we changed all the drawings so that we are not copyrighted. Hey guys, stop. My dogs want to participate here. And so they can learn about evolution, natural selection. They can learn about Darwin, they can take a quiz. But what I want to show you is the game. You do not, it's downloading data. Hold on. There we go.
Well, hello. I am Charles Darwin. Almost 200 years ago, I sailed the world studying nature. I discovered the process of natural selection, which is the main way evolution happens. Choose a panel above to learn how species evolve.
Now, if you want the Charles Darwin to speak the whole time, you can let him speak, but I can understand how that could get a little bit after a while, especially if you more than one computer going in your classroom. You do have the option here on the top right to stop that. So you
welcome to the Tys Time Machine.
See, I can stop my British friend from doing that, but I'll let him talk. The game is based on the rules of natural selection. Your species has to survive a changing, often cruel environment. So there's your changing, often
the organism
cruel
known
environment.
as Tys crittera, or the Tys critter. The population has many different traits. Variation, yay. You get to choose the traits of your starter population. Be careful choosing the traits of your starter population. Hint, variation helps. Consider the possible changing environments your Tys critters will face.
So if a kid picks the same guy
Here
3
we go.
times.
The goal of the Tys Time Machine is for your species to survive 1 million years. The individuals with the traits best suited to the changing environment will survive.
So the students pick 3 critters. Notice that I picked the same critter. There's no variation at all. So every time, I don't know what the end of the game is going to produce, but chances are these guys are not going to survive because there's not enough variation in the population.
You can spin the wheel of mutations 3 times during your time travel. Be careful, you do not know what you are going to get. Mutations are random.
In the original game that disappeared off the internet, you can choose your mutation. And that kind of bugged me. And I think it sent the wrong signal to students that animals who, need to turn green because the environment's getting rainier and more tropical can choose to turn green. So I asked the developer of the game, his name was Carver, I asked him to make sure that it was a random spin and you actually don't know what you're going to get.
Everybody run, a volcano is erupting. There is no time to use the wheel of mutations. Cross your fingers that some of your Tys critters have what it takes to survive.
Okay, so that silly music plays as the years go by, and remember the object of the game is to survive 1 million years. Sometimes you don't have time to adapt. I think that's a good point. Stop to bring up the idea of climate change. But Ms. Vazquez, there's always been fluctuations in the Earth's temperature. Yes, there have been, but never this quickly. And we're not giving species a chance to change and adapt over time. Oh, we made it.
Yikes, it's cold. Some of the Tys critters may not be able to stay warm enough to survive this colder climate. Remember, you can pause the game and try your luck on the Wheel of Mutations 3 times during your time travel.
Let me go ahead and spin the wheel so you see what it looks like. I think my guys are pretty furry. Oh, I got the same guy again. Oh, well. But So if you didn't have a furry guy, if you had kind of the hairless guys, you might want to spin.
Oh no, a deadly virus is spreading in your population. There is no time to use the wheel of mutations. Cross your fingers that some of your Tys. Oh no, your species was wiped out by the spreading disease. Perhaps more variation would have helped. Would you like to try again?
So what are the different scenarios? I want to give you guys time to play with this, but it gets too hot, it gets too cold. There's a predator. The little trees start getting very tall, and if you only have short guys, they can't reach the fruit of the trees. I believe one of them's an asteroid impact, and then you're pretty much a goner. And I made sure that you lose a lot, because most species have lost. 90+%, 99% of species that have appeared on Earth are no longer with us. We truly are the winners of an amazing lottery after lottery after lottery after lottery. So it is difficult to win the game. So I'm not going to hit replay, but I'll make sure you have time to play in a second. So that's here. I want them to play a few times, and the only thing they have to do here is, if they're at home, for example, is to take a picture of the screen to prove you survived 1,000,000 years, and a screenshot of your score on the quiz. There is a quiz here. And
Well,
oops, I have 2 times machines open now. So they can take the quiz, and there's, I believe, 10 questions, and then they have different little critters at the end. I'm totally messing up on purpose here. And that one. And that one. And that one. Oh, I got that one right. Oh, I got 1 out of 10. So I am a Tys critter, never quitter. And then there's a Tys critter, rock star, and so forth. So they can play a few times and hopefully improve that terrible score. So that's that. So far we've learned some definitions. We've practiced a little bit these definitions, watched 1 video, played the Tys Time Machine. And I tried to think of things that young kids really like. And I know I loved, and my son loved, and my students love carnivorous plants. So this is a beautiful stop motion video with clay on the wild world of carnivorous plants. And they are to watch it and describe one of the ways these plants have adapted to eat insects. And then there's a lot of focus on fossils at this grade level. So they are to watch this video on what is a fossil. And I love this video, which is how a fossil is formed. I can tell you I did this today with my 7th graders, and they thought that it's the bone that was preserved. And I think, to be fair, a lot of people think it's the bone that the scientists find, but it's actually, the bone is gone and been replaced by minerals. So that is it's a kind of corny. I think for your grade level, it's perfect video that will explain what is a fossil to them. And then, you know what? Let's talk dinosaurs, because man, dinosaurs are so cool. And there's some videos here for them to watch. If we go to the one that you're doing in class, there is a hands-on lab, okay, that you could do in class. And there's more on fossils, but they need you to do these. So there's 2. There's a game that you download, and the kids you have to decide the environment, say an aquatic environment, and the kids get to choose what they are: little fish, little clams, little octopus, whatever you want. And then they choose cards from a cup or whatever, and different things happen to them. They get eaten, that means they're not going to be a fossil, or they die and sink to the bottom and get covered by sediment. That means they may become a fossil. So some of your students become fossils and some of your students do not become fossils, and they act it out in class. And then I love this one because people say often, well, how can we know? How can we know what these animals look like? So we look at the skeleton of a horse. And I was like, well, what can you learn about the horse based on just its skeleton? And then, so what can you learn about this animal based on just its skeleton? And then we go to a website from the Field Museum in Chicago. So where am I? So I don't want to like confuse you. This is the unit that you need to be present. This one includes the horses, includes the hands-on lab, etc. And this is the unit that you can assign and not be present. In other words, the ones with the red lettering that the kids can do without your help. I'd say it'll easily take, you can't assign it overnight. That would be cruel and unusual. It'll easily take them at least 5 class periods to get through the whole thing. Then just below that, you have the labs, the 3 activities that can be done if your kids are present and accounted for. This lab is for the birds, free download. Fossilization game where they pretend to be different living things and determine whether or not they fossilize, and the horse versus stegosaurus. If you download this guy, I do want to show you that there's note sections for you. If you download it, well, I have to send you the Word version of that. Actually, I need to change that up so that anyone can get the Word version of that. So that you can see the notes that I put for the teacher there. And then just to kind of encourage teachers to look above and find more resources, I've added a few recommendations here that I think your grade level can handle, which, for example, this Simple Tree of Life Explorer, the idea that evolution is not a ladder, evolution is a tree. They click on, say, lungfish, and it shows them how far back in time you have to go to find the common ancestor between the human and the lungfish, and what that ancestor may have looked like. And then you can reset, and let's say dog. And I love that every time it's a different human. How far back you have to go to find the common ancestor between the dog and the human. And then you could really go back to, I don't know, sponges. Now, I think your grade level can handle that. So because it's not in any of the units that I created, I've added a few recommendations or suggestions here. Okay, that's a lot of talking, and I said 5:20 and it's 5:16. So gonna stop sharing and put my Center for Inquiryorg. That's my email if you want the Word document, the Word version or the PowerPoint versions to any of these things. And if you don't want to go through the form request, if you want to go ahead and ask me for the rubrics, the answer keys, the student response sheets, whatever, I can do that for you as well. And if you're interested in, Bertha, I think I can fix this, I can make this better, we could, again, I have the money right now to hire elementary school teachers to expand it, to add more units. And I also have the money to pay presenters. And I don't just mean Vermont, I mean anywhere. And again, it's $250 plus travel expenses to present and to prepare for the presentations. I'd like you to try to play the games and stuff. We have about 10 minutes left, but I also want to give away a t-shirt. And the book. And Margaret, how do I do that? Do I do like put everybody's name? I know what I'll do. While you're playing the game, I'm gonna put everybody's name on a piece of paper, and I'll let my dog pick one up off the desk. So it's completely random. You don't count. Do you count, Margaret? Do you? I know you count, but I mean, do you?
Oh, do I count for this? No, I shouldn't count
Okay.
for this. No.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I'm like, I do count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry.
Myra, Shari, and Kathy. So please let me go ahead also while I'm doing that. I'm going to go ahead and give you the website. tyseducation.org. You go to the resources and it says skip to elementary. So you don't have to scroll all the way down. I don't know if this dog thing's going to work, but I'll try. Okay, I have 4 little pieces of paper. Come here. Why are you leaving? Come here. All right, I have another dog. I'll use the other dog. Come here, baby. Okay, pick a paper. Pick one. Eat it. I love you. You're more calm though. You don't eat paper off the table. All right. Oh, she dropped one to the floor. This will be the t-shirt. Adriana. Yay. If you could email me your address and t-shirt size. Okay. And
Will
these,
do.
my dogs are not cooperating, so I just grabbed one. And Kathy, you get a book.
Thank you.
Email me and they're for sale for $30. So actually that's a really good deal. Email me your address and I'll send you our book. I feel bad. I feel like everybody should get something. So this is what we're gonna do. I have jigsaw puzzles of Australopithecus afarensis, Lucy, and dinosaurs. So Myra and Shari, if you email me your addresses, one of you will get a box of 6. Actually, I could do 3 and 3 or 6.
I am good. I don't need anything. I'm absolutely fine. If you want to get rid of something, give it to Maggie so she can give it away to a teacher at a workshop. So I'm good.
I could do that.
Really appreciate
Also,
it.
I might just keep a puzzle because we have puzzles here. Not
Okay.
gonna lie. Sorry.
Okay, so, and Shari, how about you? You want some puzzles for your classroom?
I'm no longer in the classroom. I'm at the State Department, so I would say send them to Maggie so that
Got
she can
it.
share them with Vermont teachers.
I could do that. I can do that for
Okay.
sure.
Maggie,
Oh,
you're
I'll
gonna email
message.
me?
Yeah, I'll message you.
And I'll send you a box of Lucy and a box of dinosaurs.
It will be well received in our state.
Awesome. Comments, questions, if you want time to go through the page, please do that, and I'll stay here in case you want to say
I
something.
do have some, I have a couple questions because I think these resources are great. And I think that for educators that find themselves having to switch back into hybrid or switch back into remote, it becomes really important to have high quality resources. Our state is a proficiency based state. So the way that we go through and and like create rubrics and proficiency scales. If a teacher were to download one of these resources, is there a capacity for them to adapt it to the learning system that they're in?
Absolutely. I think what I need to do is right now they're PDFs online. And I realize that you guys, I need to delete the PDFs and add PowerPoints so that you can change it any way you want to. I think that's the first thing I'm going to do at 5:30 when we stop. So don't download yet. Because that way you can adapt. That's something, you know, I have questions about that. I've always had questions about present content first or project-based, or I'd love to have a cup of coffee with one of you and discuss how that works, because I'm always like, do I do the activity first and then present the content, or do I present the content and then do the activity?
No, in fact, okay, I'm going to jump in here. So it's definitely activity or activity first, you know, and then the content from my perspective. Now, that's just me talking.
The times I've done that, I don't know. I'm trying to look at the data because I'm a big believer in they have to at least have some basic understanding, or they're not getting anything out of the activity.
So you might be surprised at what basic understanding they already have.
Right.
Absolutely.
And allow them to build some of that understanding together before by sharing it together before they have it. I heard a great little thing today, which many of you may have heard before. It's called ABC CBV, which I had not heard that whole little thing before. So
Oh, what's
activity.
the end of it? Yeah.
So activity before concept, and then content before
For
vocabulary.
but I would change that to
So-
context
And-
before
and-
vocabulary.
Yeah, and that could be, yeah. I
Yeah,
just
it's
thought it
really-
was a cute little thing.
It mirrors how at least Vermont is trying to tackle moving science systems forward in a proficiency based performance assessment way, which is, you know, because, you know, I reflect back on my own pedagogy and where I came from, because I came from New York and it was very prescribed and it was very like content activity, and without actually merging the two and allowing the context to work its way through an activity and deepen, and then you start adding a little bit more parameters. It's a change in the way that I think that science has been traditionally taught, but then again, the way that I was introduced to the next generation science standards, it was because of the complexity of those standards, it was a new way to teach. And so how do we do that in a way that is equitable and brings authentic, relevant learning to students and things like that? So, you know, that's one of the reasons why I asked about some of the adaptation, because we do have, you know, whether I want to admit it or not, there are school systems that even in Vermont are very traditional in the way that they move, you know, content forward, but we do have very innovative schools that are trying to change some of this stuff. And I think that these are great resources that would give schools an opportunity, if they're pigeonholed in that traditional format, to be able to move forward and move really great content forward and tackle very, you know, hot topic issues. You know, I think of Adriana in Ohio, how like it is difficult sometimes to teach evolution. But then the way that the resources are put together, to have them being able to be almost like modular in like, all right, I'm going to be taking this piece because it deepens this aspect of my classroom experience and my classroom teaching. Like, I think that these are great. I think this
So
is
what
exactly
you would
what.
do, like, would you put
Sorry.
the game at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
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 Even
I
my
put the game
kiddo-
at the beginning. Absolutely.
Even
put
when
the
my
game at the
kiddo was on my lap,
Yeah, I'd have
They kept
started
saying,
with the game.
do it
Yep,
again,
or something,
do it again,
or
yeah, play it again.
or a visual, or a video,
So
or.
the little rocks and the game up
But
front.
I'd have showed Little Rocks without any sound.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what was just even having my own kiddo on my lap, the questions that started coming up, which was like, why did half of them go away? What is that thing on the screen? What?
Right.
And my kiddo was 5. And like, can you play it again? Can you do it again? And so that, when I had put into the chat, like, this is the way that he's learning how to code through that play, through that game. He knows nothing about coding, but he's learning. He's like, okay, all of a sudden he's starting to connect the pieces. And then I can go in later and say, oh, this is, the direction, this is the action, and like putting some parameters on it. And is in his brain, he's like, oh, I'm just like making my character move across the screen. So I look at like specifically like those fuzzy little Tys creatures. He was like, he called them bugs. He was like the fuzzy bugs.
Yeah, we don't really know what they are.
It didn't matter. It
we
was
just
just
call
like,
them
where did
doesn't.
they go? Why did they disappear? Where did, and
Right.
like all of these questions that were coming up, which is like in that moment, I was like, I got him. I can put some knowledge in his brain right now.
Right, yeah, it's to
It was
catch
great.
them. It's very simple. All I need to do is put the PowerPoints in there, and you guys just move those slides up and try it that way. I know that I've tried it both ways. For 32 years, I've done it both ways. And there's this amazing lab for high school biology called the Evolution of Skin Color. And they suggested at the National Association of Biology Teachers that we begin the school year with this lab on why humans have dark skin, white skin. Complete and total fail. It was a complete and total fail because they don't know what a gene is. They don't know what genotypes are. They didn't understand phenotype. They didn't understand mutation.
Right.
And it just didn't work. And I realized that I had to cover genetics and genotype and things like that before they were clueless.
It
So
kind of goes
I-
to what Myra had said before. I'm going to butcher the letters. A, B, C, A, B, V.
CBV.
CBV. I was close. I was
CBV.
close.
Yeah, you were close.
But-
So go ahead, Maggie.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Myra.
So I think the problem is that it's not just a flip. So I don't think they gave you the right direction, right? It's not just I have to flip it first. It's what the kids' questions that they have by going through the exercise, and then how one goes about labeling it afterwards. I think it's not as simple
Okay.
as just doing the flip. It's a lot more complicated than
Yeah.
that.
I
Because
felt like
if I
they needed the
just-
content.
If I just do the flip, it's just like the game. I would do the game first. I would do the game first because they're gonna then, the little guys, the bug guys, they're gonna have a lot of questions. And it's in the solving of those questions. Like, so why does the skin color do that? What happens here? How is that possible? And then I build in all of that information with them. But it's not easy to figure out. It takes a while as teachers to figure out how
I
I
get
go
that.
about that building, right?
I
How
think
do I go
that's
about
the
building?
thing is that this is the first time I've heard it explained like this because I just thought that was a fail. Meanwhile, like I just did Rock Cycle and I started with the crayons and they shaved the crayons and I made them come to me. That's weathering, erosion, deposition. I made them smush it with their hands. We melted it. We started all over again. And then I introduced Rock Cycle. But
Right.
that I've been doing for 32 years.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
nothing new to do that.
It's really interesting that, and it's something that I have noticed is that mostly at the secondary level, there is this like, we got to start with the content, we got to start with the vocab. And I have found that it really doesn't seem that way in elementary school. In elementary and middle school, they have engaging activities in the beginning, but we forget, and this is kind of what I put in the chat, we forget that high schoolers also like to play. And the way that, and Kathy had put in the chat as well, adults do this too, where like, if we're learning something, yeah, we could sit there and read it, but there are times when I'm reading, looking at like a very quick science blog and I'm like, I don't know what that is. I want to learn more. And I might not know the vocab, but like I'll eventually learn it,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I get it then. I get, so I get it. It's like, it's kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah.
It's a different name, but you know what I'll do is hang on, don't download anything yet, because there are numbers and I don't want you guys to have to be the ones to switch number 1, number 2, number 3, and then let me put the game at the top, followed by the little critters, the little Brocky guys. Make the suggestion like, hey, you could even watch this with the sound off. And
Oh,
see
yeah.
what kind of
Yeah,
questions are being
absolutely.
elicited.
I think when
And
I'm looking
then-
at this, like, I just keep thinking like, this is like a modular sofa where I want to build the sofa for the room or the classroom environment that the teacher finds themselves in. And not only the classroom environment, but like the group of kids, because children, like, right, like we've all had the experience where we have one class that's like, they got it, and the next class you're like,
Oh, yeah.
why didn't
Oh.
they get it? It's the same thing, and it's
Yeah.
that modular piece. So like thinking about it that way, I'm really excited to share the
These
share the
are
resources out with educators, especially like that elementary piece. Like that is something that like,
Let me just make another
elementary
suggestion then.
style.
I can do it, or I can pay you $25 an hour to do it and switch them around, because you're the elementary school teacher and you know what you're doing. Send you the PowerPoints and switch them, and don't worry about the numbering. I can take care of that later, but change my questions around and stuff like that. I'm open, completely open.
I would definitely send that opportunity out to my elementary educators. But I do know that it is 5:35, so I want
Yeah.
to give you an option to
But
close.
I
because
that was
know
so, that's awesome that we opened it up and I got to hear you guys. Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank
I am
you
really-
for sharing.
Yes, and I'm really grateful for the resources, because however we individually try to package them, coming up with the game is very difficult to do. And
Yeah.
having those that we can use in helping teachers, and especially with a topic that is politically charged in many cases, and that elementary teachers don't often feel a lot of confidence in. So
No,
having some of these resources available is wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie, for opening this up.
Yes,
I'm
no
having a great
problem.
time.
I'm
Kathy,
gonna stop the recording.